Welcome back to my first in, first out film reviews. Today I've got another film from 2000 I bought in 2000, which is an old snapper case of the Maltese Falcon. And of course, not much needs to be said about this. This is a film that won Academy Award, and it basically set John Huston off to do even greater things as a director. But it is an interesting film with an interesting story behind the film. Of course, it was John Huston's debut film, and he worked really, really hard to even get this directorial role. He had to go back to the studios numerous times to try to convince them to give him a chance to be the director of this film. In fact, he was such an unknown at the time that when they were trying to cast Sam Spade, they originally wanted the 1930s character actor George Raft to play Sam Spade. And he turned it down because of John Huston. He didn't want to work with an inexperienced director. So I'm sure he regretted that later on. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting backdrop to a story that has a lot of subtle messaging, I guess is the best description. It's a film noir. Obviously one of the most famous film noirs ever. Humphrey Bogart plays Sam Spade, a private eye who has gotten involved with Mary Astor. And Mary Astor was apparently famous for being very, very promiscuous on the set with practically everybody. She was apparently having an affair with John Huston and cheating on him at the same time, as the story goes. But she's come to Sam Spade for help. And she's basically being deceitful. It turns out that she is involved with a guy named the Fat Man, who's played by Sidney Greenstreet in his first big debut role. Sidney Greenstreet is looking for an ancient relic called the Maltese Falcon, and he's got a henchman who is basically kind of his Johnny on the spot, his boy Friday, which I guess in 1940 terms would be, I guess, his young gay lover. I mean, I didn't pick up on a lot of this stuff when I first saw the film. And of course, I've seen it numerous times, but there's a lot of not so subtle homosexual references in this film when you really start to research it and watch it over and over and over. Peter Lorre comes in as Joe Cairo, and he is he's affiliated with the Fat Man, and they're all wanting this Maltese Falcon. And they're all going to do whatever they have to do, lie, deceive, cheat, kill, to get it, because it's worth a hell of a lot of money. Nobody in the film, if their lips are moving, they're lying. I mean, it's one of the only films that I know of that everyone is basically lying, and you got to figure out what they're really meaning by what they're saying, and that goes for Humphrey Bogart as well. Strange film, interesting film. It's very talky. In fact, the last 20 minutes, which is the big scene where Sam Spade confronts Sidney Greenstreet and Peter Lorre and Mary Astor, they're basically diagnosing each other and trying to figure out what's the truth and what's the fiction. In that last 20 minutes, although it's spent all the actors in one room, it's a very, very engaging and fascinating watch. A lot of it has to do with the low and strange camera angles that John Huston used, and the lighting was fantastic. He made it a very, very interesting watch, even though it could have been a very dull, talky film. A lot of it has to do with the charisma of Humphrey Bogart. I mean, he's just magic on film, and the cinematography, is just fantastic. It really set John Huston off to do great things later on. but you've really got a potent combination of a fantastic director in his first directorial debut paired up with a fantastic actor, Humphrey Bogart. And it is just magic to watch. My favorite scene in this thing is when Humphrey Bogart confronts Peter Lorre, trying to get at least some facts out of him that might be inkling of truth, and he just slaps him around, and then of course Peter Lorre is playing a very effeminate, essentially for the 40s, a homosexual role as well. So Humphrey Bogart slapping Peter Lorre around, and Humphrey Bogart says, "You're going to take it and like it." And I love that scene, that little clip so much that I'm going to show that off here at the end of this little video. It's just a great way to end this film. But I love the film, and it's a 10 out of 10. I'm surprised that it really got through the Hayes. I think the film board at the time was the Hayes Film Board, and apparently all the not so subtle, sexual references, orientation references had to be really addressed. I mean, like Peter Lorre, it's obvious he's playing an effeminate male. He's got a flower, and apparently he's you can just tell that he's playing a gay guy. But that stuff was kind of ironically was lost on me when I first saw it as a young man, and even further on after multiple viewings. But after doing the research and watching it 2 or 3 times, most recently this week, I see it now. It took me a minute, but I see it. Okay, maybe I'm a little slow. It doesn't diminish from the film at all, and it's just an interesting sidebar to a very interesting movie and an interesting story, and a classic movie at that. The film has been released numerous times. This is, like I say, this is an old snapper case, which has got a bunch of trailers on it, things like that. I mean, you can still pick this up. I mean, you can pick up Blu-rays of it. You can pick this up for $3, I think, still. So, yeah. But anyway, that's the Maltese Falcon, and it's as great a film as the critics and people claimed it to be, and I really enjoyed kind of refreshing my watch on it. So I will leave you with this famous scene as we close out the Maltese Falcon.
This is the second time that you have laid hands on me. When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it.